Welcome back to the channel, everybody. So, a couple of days ago, wow, a week ago, I asked you all to let me know your least favorite fantasy trope, and that was for this video. So obviously, there are plenty of tropes that exist, some of them good, some of them bad. I think, in general, any of them can be done well. It's really a matter of the book and the author. So, like, I love the Chosen One trope. That's just one of my favorite tropes there is. But it can go a little bit too far sometimes. And that steps right in to this first one. So, a couple people said this a little bit differently. I'll post a few of them on the screen now. But basically, I'm new to this whole thing, but I'm also the best at it. That coincides very well with the Chosen One trope. Because they're the Chosen One, they end up being good at everything, whether they deserve it or not. A couple of these things were like Rand is a good example for the Wheel of Time. Now, people will defend that, saying because he's Ta'veren, that's why he's good at things. But he just kind of does stuff a lot, especially in book one. Well, the first couple of books anyway. There are many times where he will just do something. And it's like, well, how'd you do that? I don't know, I just did it. Whether they accidentally do something or it's just like, they have no idea how to do something. But for some reason, because plot, they need to be the best at it. Rin, for example, in the Poppy War. So, like, Rin goes to this school at Sinigard, this academy, and she has no training. She has no martial arts ability or combat training. But because she's able to study a little bit, she's able to beat people one-on-one that have been doing this their entire life. Or, like, Katniss comes to mind, where there's literally districts in the Hunger Games whose sole purpose is to exist to win the Hunger Games, and they don't always win the Hunger Games. Okay, next up is my personal least favorite fantasy trope, and there's actually the most discussion on this one, the love triangle. Now, I think this largely just gets slapped onto YA fantasy. I don't read a lot of YA, so I'm not speaking of that from my perspective, but it's in a lot of adult fantasy as well. Wheel of Time has kind of a love square. The Stormlight Archive flirts with having a love triangle. Mistborn flirts with having a love triangle. But this is definitely one that bothers me because I feel like it's a plot device used to sort of distract the main character or cause drama or issues with the plot where they don't need to exist. Even if it's kind of like hinted at and not truly a love triangle, the fact that it's even in there kind of pushes the boundary of this may be going down this road. And as soon as I hit that point, I'm like, oh God, don't do this. They don't need to force this love triangle. They don't need to even have the love at all. I'm perfectly fine with the main character not having a romantic relationship in my fantasy. But if they do, I don't like, and I'll combine these two. I don't like, actually it's multiple things. I don't like insta-love, which a lot of fantasy is terrible with that, where it's just, I'm the main character, love me. One true pairing, or kind of like destiny type things. The Greatcoats had one of the worst examples of this, in my opinion, with Falkio and his love interest, because it came out of absolutely nowhere in the first book. Completely unexplained. No purpose to it, and it was just like, why is this a thing? Another good one is, and this is not just exclusive to fantasy books. This happens in TV all the time. It's basically forced drama, and that is through lack of communication. Now, I understand to a degree you need this to happen so that the plot happens, because if everything was just explained or talked through right away, there would be no plot, there would be no story, there would be no movie, there would be no book. But the poor communication, where characters just refuse to actually talk to each other for whatever reason, or something minor happens, and then they just decide, oh, I'm not talking to you for 80 chapters, when you could have explained something and either saved a life or not been misunderstood. This gets abused to death of, well, if we had just had a conversation, none of this would have happened. And this person said the friend that only exists to be killed for emotional impact. I'm just going to expand this to just, in general, the character that exists to die. Because, otherwise known as red shirts occasionally, sometimes they actually are fleshed out and named characters, usually you kind of know where it's like, if you have a band of characters that are going out on a mission that's deadly, and oh, here's a random side character tagging along, a little Jimmy over here, you know Jimmy's gonna be the one to die. To act like there's stakes, like, oh, we killed the character, but who cares? It was Jimmy. Nobody cares about Jimmy. Now, one of the funniest things, because obviously red shirts were famous in Star Trek, right? So this is basically anytime you go on a mission, you know that there's literally a bunch of red shirts, and they're just basically extras that are there to die. One of the worst examples I could think of, now this is going to be a Game of Thrones TV show spoiler. It's either like season 6 or 7. I don't remember what season it is. It's later on. The episode is called Beyond the Wall, I believe. When this, oh God, when they do this stupid shit where they send our like 8 main character it's like the Hound, Jon Snow, Tormund, a bunch of guys, Gendry, beyond the wall for this stupid zombie extraction dumbass plan, and it's only them. They only show them on camera. You see these 7 people walking. They're all walking through the snow like they fight a zombie polar bear. Oh shit, somebody's dying. Wait, who is that? I don't know, some guy with a beard. He's not. Everybody's fine. Moving on. They fight a bunch of White Walkers. Oh no, people are getting killed and dragged underwater and getting killed. What? Where did all these 6 other guys come from that are dying? They exist to act like there's stakes when none of your characters are actually going to die. And that should stop, because then it's like you're never actually scared for your characters because they're not going to die. Just these randos that appeared in the scene to die are going to die. This is a good one. Dark Lords whose personality is that they're evil. This is great because there's too many villains. Comic books are really bad about this. A good amount of fantasy is bad about this. You're just supposed to kind of take it with a grain of salt that the bad guy is the bad guy because they're the bad guy, and that's why they're the bad guy. And the last one here that I'm going to read off is, my least favorite thing about fantasy tropes is fantasy readers that complain about tropes rather than just not reading books that contain those tropes. Now, I get that, but at the same time, you don't know if you're going to like it until you read the book. So even if you know it's in there, like, you gotta read the book, bro. So that was all I wanted to talk about today, just to kind of respond to some of your fantasy trope issues that some of you have that you left comments about. Obviously, there's a lot more. I mean, in general, fantasy tropes exist for a reason, right? They can be done very well. They can be done terribly. Some books try to, flip traditional tropes on their heads. But, I mean, there's certain tropes that I'm a sucker for, and I think everybody has theirs that they kind of gravitate to, and that's the good thing about fantasy, is that there's so much of it that you're going to find bad examples and good examples of all these tropes. So you kind of learn to know as a reader which ones you vibe with and which ones you don't. For me, like I said, I love The Chosen One. I play so much fantasy games. Like, I grew up playing Elder Scrolls and Final Fantasy games and just RPGs, and like, you're always the chosen one. I love that shit. You're always the savior of the galaxy. The whole world revolves around you. I absolutely eat that up. 2 quick things I wanted to mention was I actually got some book mail from viewers. So Michael continuing his quest of sending everybody that he knows anxious people. I have actually heard that this book is incredible from not just you, sir. So I will read it at some point. And then Lourdes, who actually is Chapters We Love, so check her channel out. I'll link it down below. Thank you for sending me the Sword of Kaigen, because I've been meaning to get to this as well. Heard fantastic things about it. I know my buddy Jake, who's in Discord. He's in Daniel's Discord. He's in Mike's Discord. You'll find him all over the internet. Shelf space. I don't know. This guy's in everywhere. He actually did a review of this too, saying it broke him. But I've heard absolutely fantastic things about that. His channel's linked down below. So looking forward to reading both of those at some point in the future. But that's going to do it for this video. So like and subscribe as always. Join the Patreon if you do want to support the channel. That's always optional, but always appreciated. Hop in Discord if you want to continue the conversation. Drop in the comments down below. Let me know your thoughts just in general about fantasy tropes. Love them, hate them. Which ones are your favorite? Which ones are your worst? But until next time, everybody, keep reading.